Hello everyone, welcome to yet another day in this The Clown Decade, the decade where things are only going to get worse before they get better. And today we are going through the fact that it appears that the normies really have noticed that pretty much everything in mainstream politics is just god-awful. Which is in a way a white pill because now we can actually get the narrative over to them, the accurate narrative I might add, that an awful lot of this is because everyone is too left-wing. And yes, by the way, 90% of the time that would include themselves. So last night, the leaders, Starmer and Sunak, had a debate on the BBC, and at one point audiences started asking questions. And this was the one I found most interesting.
Good evening, gentlemen. Mr. Sunak, I think you made a fair job of being Chancellor, but you're a pretty mediocre Prime Minister.
I mean, this guy just went up and decided that today was the day that he chose violence. Yeah, pretty much everyone agrees that Rishi Sunak is a lacklustre Prime Minister. He doesn't exactly inspire people to believe in his leadership, but he is a very good middle manager. That is why he was fairly good at getting the things done as Chancellor that he was either told to get done or wants to get done himself. He'd be perfect as a Chancellor under literally anyone because he does seem to deliver. But as a leader, his ideas are, yes, quite lacklustre. Anyway, it's not just Sunak who gets a beating here.
Sir Keir, I think that your strings are being pulled by very senior members of the Labour Party.
Effectively, he's saying there that I can't trust a word that Keir Starmer is saying because I think that, yes, he is effectively being controlled by people who are either Fabians or socialists. In other words, yes, all your rhetoric is very good. You know, you say you want to control migration, you say you don't want to raise taxes, but at the end of the day, I know what the Labour Party have done in the past, and I do not trust that your rhetoric this time, that is heading toward the right wing, is actually going to be what is implemented. Which, from what I can tell, a lot of people do agree with. There are loads of people I know who won't vote for Starmer simply because he is Labour, and because, in the history I've read as well, yeah, Labour always only go the socialist direction. Why would this be any different? This was true even under Blair and Brown, though. They had to put the extra steps in between the socialism so that people didn't think we were going back to the 70s. But hey, then all our gold gets sold off and all our institutions are completely bastardised. So, yeah, that's obviously going to get worse under Starmer, given that he is yet another heir to Blair.
Are you two really the best we've got to be the next Prime Minister of our great country?
And that's unfortunately where the Twitter clip ends, but he did actually get some answers to that. And he did get the biggest applause of the night, which does go to show that basically most people, including the BBC audience, which is quite renowned for at best having token right-wing voices, was even clapping this gentleman. And to be honest with you, they came back with pretty woeful answers. Because what else would they say?
My primary job was to deliver that economic stability so I could start cutting your taxes. That is the journey we're now on. So whatever your other frustrations, the choice for you at this election is about the future.
Again, this is one of those things that, especially when it's been brought up that he was Chancellor, he raised taxes to a 70-year high burden. No, more than that, 80-year high burden. Post-war, or during World War II, we had the highest tax burden, obviously, because we're in the middle of a war. And now we've had no war. We had a housing crash in 2008. We didn't allow anything to fail that should have failed, such as banks or the housing market. And then all of a sudden what happens? Well, we have to keep that broken system going, and that's what he's doing. Okay, we've got economic stability. We've still got national debt at 100% of GDP. That should be down to the 30s. Yeah, don't get me wrong, it's nice for the tax cuts that I have had before, but at the end of the day, they're not actually trying, neither party, I mean, is actually trying to address what is causing these economic problems. They're both going to carry on with it. And just saying, I'll give you economic stability, and I've done that, what, because one IFS report said it? That's not going to last forever. People just don't trust it, I'm afraid. And these sound bites are getting boring. People don't like them anymore from the sounds of it. This is why everyone's saying, wow, you're both really boring. Can I please have someone better, exciting, and with fresh ideas to actually get this country into a good position again?
It has to be rooted, if we're going to restore hope, in my view, in returning politics to service. The sense that you come into politics to serve.
That, as far as I'm concerned, is just completely dodging the question. Didn't address his concern at all that, oh, I think you are being pulled along by higher-up forces in Labour who are actually going to raise taxes, are actually going to carry on spending. I mean, even the IFS came out and said, yeah, Labour are probably going to raise taxes if they don't get the economic growth that they are expecting. They're probably not going to get the economic growth either. So basically, the IFS said, please expect tax rises. And expect tax rises no matter which one of these two gets in. I mean, it's going to be Starmer, but I guess with that, start saving right now because your taxes are going to go up. And trust me, the spending's not going to get any better. Anyway, the man who asked the question, known as Mr. Blackstock, is a retired operations manager at a diesel engine company and said he was disappointed by both leaders' responses. I mean, I was too. Neither of them answered my question. Blackstock said that he had always voted Tory but had become disillusioned with the party since 2019. I don't think that they have given me any reason to vote for them. They seem to have lost their way. They've internally combusted, which is a shame. I think everyone can agree with that. He added that Starmer's message that he had changed the Labour Party did not convince him to switch. They may have changed, but they still haven't answered the unanswered questions. Council tax, inheritance tax, fuel duty. I could go on. Yeah, and I suppose this is actually where Rishi Sunak's strategy of going on about the taxes that Labour are inevitably going to raise is quite convincing to some people. However, I just know in the back of my mind, yeah, but I know you're going to do the same thing. Unless you seriously look into making cuts like the Reform Party has done in their contract, I don't trust you. And this is why the Reform Party, I think, is going to make quite a swing in 2029. Literally, if they just get their vetting in shape and they actually get rid of the useless candidates that they have, I think they could be doing really well by 2029, and that's what they should be focusing on. But anyway, Mr. Blackstock, who lives just north of Nottingham, said that he would go back to his instincts and vote Tory. And these are the type of people voting Tory, by the way. These are the 20% who vote Tory. They are people that don't trust Labour and don't want to take the plunge and try and vote Reform or something like that, which, to be honest, I think a few of them will actually be quite comfortable voting for Reform because quite a few people probably voted the Brexit Party. Basically, the people voting Tories are wet Tories who do not trust Starmer because he is part of the Labour Party and therefore they suspect that he is actually going to be a full-on socialist, which I suspect too, by the way. At the end of the day, it's going to have to be Conservative, but only because the Labour Party haven't answered my concerns. In snap polling from the debate, YouGov found that 62% of people found the debate frustrating, including 80% of those who did not know who they will vote for. Because, yeah, it's all just sound bites and absolutely no substance. And I know I say a lot of the time democracy doesn't work because the people are stupid, but the people are smart enough to know when they are being given sound bites with nothing but substance. They actually are better than that. The proportion of people who found the debate interesting was 40%, though that dropped to 15% among undecided voters. Again, absolutely none of that is shocking. Of course, most people found it uninteresting. They didn't say anything. And again, over on the Worcester Club, links found in the description, we went through all the manifestos. They look like they had some substance, it's just the substance was absolute garbage. I mean, to be honest, we really did just glance over the Tory manifesto going through some of the main points because we knew they weren't going to get in, and even if they did get in, given that they only implemented about 40% of the 2019 manifesto, basically we could see most of it was lies. There is no way the Tories are going to get in and actually implement national service. There's no way. But then you have Labour, who, again, I bring this up all the time because of how stupid it is. They want a national wealth fund and they want to put it into green energy. Green energy, by the way, which is a bubble that is currently bursting, especially with electric vehicles, especially with wind power that private companies aren't even trying to invest in anymore because the price cap is too low. And then, worst of all, carbon capture storage. That is not a profitable venture. It's not supposed to be a profitable venture. It is supposed to be a venture that takes carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and pumps it underground to lessen the greenhouse effect. That is the type of thing you do when your economy is booming like it has never boomed before. It is not something to put in this manifesto, and it is certainly not something to say we will make a national wealth fund that will grow forever. Because the point of carbon capture storage isn't to grow forever. In fact, it is nothing but an economic burden anyway. People can see from all the messaging being put about, from all the sound bites, from the way both the leaders are just incredibly tedious, this is why people are going back on their instincts and voting this election. Most Tories who are especially dry, they don't have really anyone they want to vote for, apart from Reform, obviously. But then Reform make a bit of a blunder and just can't shut up about Ukraine, Russia. I mean, don't get me wrong, Nigel Farage is right about what he said. Yes, Russia did use the West's expansionism, if you can really call it that, as an excuse to invade Ukraine. He was saying it in 2014 along with Boris Johnson, but he keeps going on about it. His best thing to do would be, yeah, so what? It's nothing to do with us anyway. I'm here to talk about the home issues. That would have been a far better answer than going on about it, but anyway, as we see in the polls here, yes, Reform has taken a slight hit to 16%, Conservatives are at 20%, Labour at 41%, and then really who cares about the rest? The interesting thing is, with this election, is that polls are all over the place. I mean, this particular poll is one that I am seeing generally come across as the average. Labour first, Conservatives quite far behind in second. Reform looks like they're about to overtake them constantly. And as I say, who cares about the rest? And different polls say different things. It looks like Reform are at least going to get a seat, maybe two. I've seen polls say that they're going to get up to 20. Hell, Matt Goodwin's, which is a hell of an outlier, that was saying that Reform were polling at something like 24%. This is about the only exciting bit of this election. The polls are so all over the place, we really don't know what the outcome's going to be. We don't know if it's going to be a Labour supermajority. We don't know if it's going to be a Conservative wipeout. We don't even really know if Nigel Farage is going to win Clacton. But one thing I do know is that the real winner of this election is going to be voter apathy. This will have the lowest turnout of any vote we have seen, unless Reform make a ridiculously surprise surge, because this is what happened with Donald Trump in 2016. Every poll said it's going to be a wipeout. Hillary Clinton's going to be the next president of the United States. They even hired a place with a glass ceiling and had all these pyrotechnics ready to announce that they won. And they basically had to go up and say, everyone go home, Donald Trump's won. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that Nigel Farage is going to win this election. I don't think this is the time for it. I reckon 2029 is going to be better, especially if he has a decent amount of seats in the House of Commons. Well, Nigel Farage will have one. If Reform have a decent amount of seats in the Commons to actually swing votes one way or the other. This will also hopefully get the Tories to realise that Tory HQ is absolutely full of wets and we actually need the dries back in, because when was the last time that the Tories actually had consistent supermajorities? Well, it was back when Margaret Thatcher was in charge. Yes, Boris Johnson did really, really well in 2019. They had a stonking majority of 80 seats, but they didn't do anything with it, and this is the result of that. These polls tell an incredible story. Yeah, Boris Johnson, he has his ups and downs. You put Liz Truss and Rishi Sunak in, it's been nothing but down. And don't get me wrong, I'm obviously Liz Truss's number one acolyte. But my God, they could not get their messaging over to the normies properly. And as I say, this is what happens. You get total voter apathy. You completely open up everything going on to the right wing. And if Liz Truss and her team could get the message across properly, I reckon that they'd be up in the polls. Reform are up in the polls. Look, you can see right there, right on the right-hand side. Big dip in Labour and Conservative. Reform go right up. And obviously they've lost a bit of momentum, but hell, a lot can happen in the next 2 weeks, or week even. Good Lord, it is a week. I mean, I'm still undecided. I'm more than likely going to vote Reform, but if Reform has one of them useless candidates, I might have to vote Tory or spoil my ballot. I'm not sure yet. I'm still doing my research on that and making sure I know. Vote for your local candidate, as I have always said. If you have a base Tory and they're better and more professional than the Reform Party candidate, vote for them. It is better to have a Liz Truss in than a Rishi Sunak. However, it is not better to have a Rishi Sunak in than pretty much any Reform candidate. Anyway, that's my quick analysis before I'm away for the weekend, so I hope you did enjoy it. Shilling for next week. The other side of the hill, it's going to be a Tosh Talk, so join the Worcester Club Discord down below. Please give us topic suggestions, vote for the topic suggestions when I put the poll out tomorrow. And, of course, do join in the chat there. We do good stuff over there, honestly. It's worth seeing. Regional Variations will be back Wednesday, as usual. And then Thursday, obviously, I will be streaming pretty much the whole of the election. I pretty much have quite a few guests confirmed, quite a few familiar faces. Tailed Feature, I think, will be on it pretty much the whole time. So with that, please bear that in mind and please come along to watch. We'll be having as much fun as we can. Anyway, as I say, that's everything I had for you today, so once again, thank you very much for watching, and until next time, Goodbye.